Pluto in astrology represents everything primal, deep, dark, and secret. Like the lord of the underworld of ancient mythology, this dwarf planet is ruthless, implacable, irrevocable. Everything you hide from yourself or from others has a Plutonian undertone. It represents your deepest desires, your darkest secrets, your obsessions, your intensity, your unspeakable emotions. Its transits have the power to strike terror in you, to leave you feeling invisible, disposable, negligible. Or at the other end, its transits can give you so much power and control that you can achieve your wildest dreams in life. In fact, many people, when they have a transit to their sun, move on to achieve their best lives afterwards. In all cases, Pluto transits will change you dramatically and irrevocably, like a sort of death and rebirth of the soul, going deep, extracting what's deep and secret, bringing it to the surface, and then purging what you don't need anymore, what is not necessary for your future life, for your future you that you are rebuilding. In evolutionary astrology, Pluto is very much significator of the soul and its journey across lifetimes. It pinpoints the lessons in life that we either had to learn previously or are here to learn again or better this time, or the new path that we need to follow to evolve at soul level. In mundane astrology, which is, let's just say, the astrology of the world, of geopolitics, and of world events, Pluto represents fascism. In fact, it was discovered at the time when there was the rise of fascism in the 30s. It represents dictatorship, tyranny, corruption, violence, oppression, power, abuse of power, but also survival against all odds and against all evils. Its ancient myths are so fascinating and so useful to understand this archetype that I would like you to take you through some of them, some of the most important ones. So let's go travel back in time. But before we do that, I am very curious to hear which house your natal Pluto is in, which sign it is in. Is it connected in aspect to other planets? If so, which planets? Please let me know in the comments below. And I will give you some ideas, some thoughts about your particular setup with Pluto. Also, have you had important Pluto transits already? How have they manifested? What happened for you? And where was Pluto when whatever the event happened? I would absolutely love to know, again, in the comments, please. And finally, please make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button so that you can find more of my content as it becomes available over time, and it makes me so happy. In Roman mythology, Pluto was the lord of the underworld and of the afterlife. He was the brother of Jupiter, also called Zeus, Neptune, called Poseidon, and Chiron, and was married to Proserpina, also known as Persephone in Greek mythology. Pluto was often depicted as a dark and stern figure carrying a key to the underworld and a scepter to symbolize his power. He was also associated with wealth and the earth's riches, as many valuable resources were thought to be underground. One of Pluto's most famous myths involves the abduction of Proserpina. While the latter was picking flowers in a meadow, Pluto emerged from the ground in his chariot and kidnapped her, taking her to the underworld to become his queen. Proserpina's mother, Ceres, also called Demeter in Greek mythology, searched for her daughter in vain, distraught, and eventually managed to strike a deal with Pluto that allowed Proserpina to spend part of the year with her on Earth and part of the year with Pluto in the underworld. This myth was used, amongst other things, to explain the changing of the seasons, with Proserpina's return to the surface symbolizing the return of spring. An important interpretation of this myth is that it also represents the psyche's journey into the unconscious or the hidden parts of the self. In this view, Pluto symbolizes the unconscious, which contains aspects of ourselves that we are not consciously aware of. Proserpina, on the other hand, represents the conscious ego or the self, and the abduction itself can be seen as a metaphor for the process of psychological transformation, in which the conscious self must journey into the unconscious and confront and integrate these hidden aspects of the self. The myth also touches on themes of power and control, as Pluto's abduction of Proserpina can be seen as a metaphor for the psyche's struggle with the unconscious. The unconscious is a powerful force that is often beyond our control, and the process of integrating it into the conscious self can be difficult and even traumatic. Another interpretation of the myth focuses on the mother-daughter relationship between Ceres and Proserpina. Ceres represents the nurturing, protective mother who is devastated by the loss of her daughter, while Proserpina represents the daughter who is seeking greater independence and selfhood. This can be seen as a metaphor for the process of individuation, in which an individual must separate from their parents or caretakers and establish their own identity. It can also be interpreted in the context of sexuality and the journey towards sexual maturity. In this interpretation, Pluto represents the sexual and erotic aspect of the psyche, while Proserpina represents the innocent, virginal aspect of the self. Proserpina's consumption of the pomegranate can be interpreted as a symbol for her sexual awakening and her willingness to explore her desires, which leads her to being bound to Pluto and the underworld.